Getting back to what we talked about earlier, the justice cometh. Woke up with this on my mind. A thread. Very interesting thread. We talked about the Trump card on Jordan's show the other night. Trump card. So I've been thinking, Q said double meanings exist, right? We know the Trump card physically is a financial path to citizenship. But with recent events, I think that Trump has another meaning for it. SCOTUS, Supreme Court, set the predicate that when an illegal is in prison and is awaiting trial, that they cannot be deported. That's a lot of people. And also, POTUS has said numerous times he is not happy with the current rate of deportations. You don't truly understand the scope of how long it would take to get all the illegals. Just that Biden let in alone the illegals that were already here before Biden. So how do we move around that? Since we're seeing a blockade weekly from the courts, which most injunctions have been shot down by appellate courts. Remember the declaration of the emergency of the border day one of Trump's presidency? Well, he wrote that in 90 days he would decide to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. You must learn not to memory hole things and take note. Let's look first at what the Act of 1807 does. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is a U.S. federal law codified in 10 U.S.C. 251255 that empowers the president to deploy federal military forces and federalized National Guard troops within the United States to suppress insurrections, rebellions, or domestic violence, or to enforce federal law when local authorities cannot or will not do so. The key points. Number one, purpose. Allows the president to address situations where public order is disrupted due to rebellion, insurrection, or lawlessness that obstructs federal law enforcement. Number two, authority. The president can act unilaterally without state or local consent in cases of rebellion or when requested by a state legislator or governor if the legislature cannot convene. Congress is out of session. Number three, scope. Permits the use of federal troops or militia to restore order, protect property, federal property, or enforce federal laws. Federalized National Guard. Historical context, enacted to address domestic unrest such as the 1794 Whiskey Rebellion and used in various instances, including during the Civil War, Reconstruction, and Civil Rights era. Limitations. The act requires the president to issue a proclamation ordering insurgents to disperse before deploying forces. It has been criticized for its broad discretion, raising concerns about potential misuse. Trump has done this on social media. The amendments modified over time, including in 1878 by the Posse Comitatus Act, which limits military involvement in domestic law enforcement unless authorized by laws like the Insurrection Act. The act remains a rare but significant tool for federal intervention in domestic crises, but often sparking debate over civil liberties and executive power. So, you see, 90 days from January 20th is today, my friends. Today. 20th of April, that'd be yesterday. So the Delta. Pay attention to wording, as it's important. Trump card coming. I doubt we see any action, but rather Monday on the subject. That would be today as of recording, but no action on Sunday. Did Q ever speak about the National Guard being activated? So a national emergency at the southern border of the United States within 90 days of the date of this proclamation. The Secretary of Defense and Secretary of Homeland Security shall submit a joint report to the President about the conditions at the southern border of the United States. Interesting, because they could include and invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. Trap card played? Nice work, Q. Interesting, because the Trump card coming. When was that posted? April 20th, 2018. April 20th was yesterday. The Delta is amazing. Good catch. Let's examine some Q posts of the National Guard, shall we? Let's examine the big one, post 22. Who controls the National Guard? President of the United States when federalized. If the Insurrection Act is invoked, you will start to see National Guard called up to cities to carry out deportations. This is key. Remember what we said on the show the other night, what he said, what we're reading from, about the Marines? The President of the United States can activate without congressional approval. The President can directly control the Marines. What conditions must be satisfied for this to happen? Insurrection, invasion, the Insurrection Act of 1807. What presidents used this act in the past? Let's look. Andrew Jackson, 1831, to address the nullification crisis in South Carolina. Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant in 1870s to combat the Ku Klux Klan violence. Rutherford B. Hayes in 1878 to address the Great Railroad Strike. Grover Cleveland, 1894 to break the Pullman Strike. Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1957 to enforce desegregation in Little Rock, Arkansas. John F. Kennedy, 1962 and 3 to enforce desegregation in Mississippi and Alabama against the state resistance. George H.W. Bush, 1992 to address the Los Angeles riots following the Rodney King verdict. So we have historical precedent, don't we? POTUS loves him some Andrew Jackson, doesn't he? 11.3, shall we? It's been widely debated to what it is, but let's think war, the war manual. Let's take a look at the law of war manual. Look at 11.3, end of the military occupation, end of operation. Let's see here, friends. POTUS stated many times we were an occupied country. Has he not? Because of all the illegals. End of operation, once that's verified. Have we seen this? Yes. April 3rd of this year, matter of fact, by President of Operation. Let's see here, friends. POTUS stated many times we were an occupied country. Has he not? Because of all the illegals. End of operation, once that's verified. Have we seen this? Yes. April 3rd of this year, matter of fact, by President of the United States himself. I believe the POTUS signaled 11.3 right here in his Truth Social post on April 3rd. Right here. The operation is over. The patient lived and is healing. The prognosis is that the patient will be far stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever before. Make America great again. There's that April 3rd post. End of occupation and duration of GC obligations. And then think about it logically, folks. The only way is the military fully controlled, save and spread. Once 11.3 verifies his first marker, the biggest advanced drop on the poll. Wow. See here, the only way is the military. You seeing it now? With all the judicial blockades we are seeing, is it all making sense to you now why President of the United States must use the military? Why he must invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807 and has historical precedent to do so? Let's take a look at the big one. Post 34. In order to carry out the Insurrection Act of 1807, a state military control will be needed. Also, we will see increased military activity during this times in our cities, won't we? Do not fear. They will be there for your protection. Once more point, though, let's continue on, shall we? So, just like this, any military scene on Q drop number 43 is for your protection as well as to demonstrate our resolve. Watch for confirmations tomorrow. Remember this post from earlier in the month, big month already, huh? But let's note that A is April, okay? A in the target brackets. These target brackets right here. Remember the A target brackets right there. So you're looking at your cue board. The military start. Invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807 would start a massive military movement, wouldn't it? So April, A, IG report, Sessions public attack. A, arrests. A, Awan. Border. Wall. It's all there. Post 128. This is the map, folks. The first 129 Q posts refer to the map. Let's look through this post. The crumbs. Remember, the post 2 sections above in my thread. These crumbs are not meant to scare anyone, but inform. Operators are active. Operations are underway. Invoking the Insurrection Act would make an operation go underway. Okay, time to move to my summary. Whew, that was a long one. Operators are active. There it is on the Q board. Attached graphic is correct. Okay, to summarize, Trump has stated publicly the Trump card is coming. He said it numerous times on Air Force One to the media. The Trump card could have multiple meanings, as I've laid it out here. If we truly want to get our country back and invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807, which has been used several times over in history, the military is going to be the only way to do it. We have so many blockades that are preventing the president from cleaning house. Remember, Trump told Zelensky, I have all the cards. From those of you that don't know the Trump card, no other card in the deck holds more value than the Trump card. None can beat it. No blockades, no judicial injunctions, nothing. Nothing can stop what's coming, nothing. Have a happy Easter, ladies and gentlemen, as he has risen.